You know, after 2 seasons of a live-action show based on The Boys, I never really expected to be surprised again, but then I saw this show. The Boys presents Diabolical, reveals unseen stories within the Boys universe as we plunge elbow deep into the unseen crevices of superhero violence in this anthology animated show that comes from so many talented people. I could not name them all, but it includes Awkwafina, Garth Ennis, Andy Samberg, so many people that I love. But before I properly start with my review for The Boys Diabolical, I want you to start the conversation down there, whether you're excited for the show, whether you've seen it, anything and everything down there. And if you enjoy movies and TV, this is the place to be, so consider clicking that subscribe button so you don't miss any future conversation on your favorite movies and TV. The Boys have been a show that I really love from the beginning. I read the comics, I'm rereading them again, and you guys seem to enjoy whenever I cover The Boys, so I want to thank Prime Video for allowing me a chance at seeing all 8 episodes so I can give you this review. And it is a show that can't really be talked about as one continuous story, because it is not one continuous story. It is a collection of 8 episodes, all of them completely different from one another, done in a completely different animation style from one another, with all these different tones, all these varying degrees of rated R-ness and gore and violence and even sex. So the wild tone and irreverent personality that we know The Boys the show to have is very much to be found here. It's a very raunchy show, it's a very funny show, it is a very violent show. In all these 12-minute increments in each episode, you will get your fill of wild humor and very brutal violence. Some episodes I really love, some episodes I enjoyed, and others I wasn't too much of a fan of. My favorite part about the experience of watching this show is that I was constantly caught by surprise in everything. Some episodes started and I was like, okay, where is this going? And then eventually it won me over. Just again in that span of 12 minutes. There's one episode that is 13 minutes and something long, but most of them are like 12:47 or 12:57. You can very much look at this show as the sort of Star Wars visions for the Boys universe. What a show like this is an open field for creativity. I feel you can come on here to this show, you have these creative endeavors, and just let creativity shine from each and every one of these artists in all these different animated styles. A lot of episodes are clearly anime, and we have all these different anime styles. There's one episode that is clearly right off of Rick and Morty, and I think the guy that did Rick and Morty did that very episode, because I even recognize the voice in one of the characters. But you follow all of these original characters as well, for the most part. There are episodes where we see familiar characters, the most recurrent cameo being Homelander, but we do see Hughie and Billy Butcher in the first episode. To me, what was most curious about seeing these characters that we know from the live action show is that they're clearly taking the approach from the comics. Billy Butcher doesn't look like Carl Urban. He looks like Billy Butcher in the comics. Hughie doesn't look like Jack Quaid. He doesn't talk like Jack Quaid. He has the shaved head and looks like Simon Pegg, but Scottish, like he does in the comics. And so to me, that approach to the look and the style of these characters was the most confusing part of this show per se. And perhaps my biggest issue was that, is this an offshoot of the show that we're watching with real actors and in live action? Or is it an offshoot from the comics? Again, it's just this open field to be creative and let the creative juices flow and be as raunchy and be as wild as you can within this fantastic universe of The Boys. But not to talk about some concrete episodes without spoiling anything, the first episode where we have Billy Butcher and Hughie it kind of feels like an issue of the comic book come to life. It's just them on a mission, really quick, really fast, trying to fuck up some soups, at least on a PR sense. The second episode is done by the guy who did Rick and Morty, and it is very much a Rick and Morty, except done in the Boys universe. It has that kind of humor, that kind of cadence, that kind of pacing, and it's just really depressing. It tackles all the social, cultural commentary that the show does, but in a very unique style. Didn't think I was gonna like this episode, ended up being one that I laughed the most at. The third episode is the first anime episode per se, and it's fine. There's nothing particularly wrong with it. It's about this little girl whose parents are both superheroes, but they have a very shaky marriage, and so she goes ask the help of their nemesis to bring them back together. It's an alright episode, but it feels very generic. It feels like the obvious way this story would go around unfolding, and it unfolds in that exact manner. So it's not particularly bad, but there's just nothing particularly memorable about it either. Episode 4 is one I really loved. Imagine an old-style Looney Tunes cartoon, except done within the Boys universe. We follow this Vought scientist who's doing these trials on this baby to see if her powers work, but they don't, and so Vought wants her terminated, and now he wants to save her. There's no dialogue apart from one word. The baby at one point says a word, so bad. No dialogue throughout the episode. It's just slapstick and gore mixed together, and it is so much fun. This is actually one of the 2 episodes I went back and rewatched twice because it's just so creative, so imaginative. It picks up on this old school formula that is so cherished, and it does something really new with it. Imagine Looney Tunes, well, with a ton of gore and blood and guts and fun. Episode 5 though, John and Soon-hee, might just be my favorite, at least in the top 3. Done by Andy Samberg, surprisingly, who has a voice cameo in this one. It picks up on that social commentary of the show and focuses on it with a ton of gravitas, where the main characters are this old couple, John and Soon-hee is dying of terminal cancer. And the story it tells, it's really sweet, it's wild as well, but it has a ton of heart to it, where you feel that emotional impact. And for something that only lasts 12 minutes, it's really tricky to get an emotional response in that short amount of runtime, and this episode did it. Episode 6 is the Aquafina episode. I really love the style of the animation in this one. I really love how it starts, but then it takes an idea way too far for me, and it didn't really work. It started being very unfunny very quickly, and so this is one that fell off the wayside. I wouldn't say it's my least favorite episode, because at least there was something interesting to start with, but one that didn't really work for me. Episode 7, Boyd in 3D, is a really good episode with what it's trying to say about social media, about how we see ourselves, our own self-perception. But it's a really depressing episode. Like, this is one that really works as it's happening, but by the end, you just feel like you took a really big punch to the gut, kind of going through you and pierced your whole entire body, and you just can't recuperate from it. So it's a really smart episode. It's one I really enjoyed, but prepare for a very, very depressing ending for this one. And the final episode focuses on Homelander, on kind of his origin story, alluding to some stuff that we've seen in the live action show. This is the one that kind of fits the narrative of that other show, and I really quite like that episode. To me, it's probably the most interesting as far as a narrative is concerned, because it flashes out a character that we already know, and love for how good of a villain he is. I don't want to say something that puts me in trouble, but it's definitely eye-opening in terms of this character, and Anthony Starr was back to doing the voice, and he does a really great job. So this one, the Looney Tunes episode, and John and Soon-hee, those are the standouts. Special shout out to Boyd in 3D. That is a really good episode, but again, the ending just, oh boy, I want to cry a little bit, because I feel depressed now. So The Boys Diabolical, which comes out this Friday, March 4th on Prime Video. It's a really fun, creative endeavor. You can see all these familiar names that you know from being in front and behind the camera put all their wildest creative ideas on the forefront and bring them to life. There isn't a ton of cohesion in terms of quality, and it's weird to say what we can take away from this show, as these fun, short-sized, really quick stories within this universe. So it's a show that I had a lot of fun, but there really isn't much to take away from it. There really isn't much here that we haven't already seen or haven't explored in the live-action show. I'm giving The Boys Diabolical a B. So I had a really fun time with the show, but I want you to let me know what you thought of it. Start the conversation in the comments below. And of course, if you like what you saw here, make sure to click that subscribe button so you don't miss any future conversation on your favorite movies, TV, and of course, The Boys, which I still have to review Season 1 before Season 3 comes out in June. But of course, we will be talking about that one. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my channel members, Bruna and Stuart, for making this video possible, and I'll be back very soon. My review for The Batman is now up, and I hope to see you in that one, and in the spoiler review we will upload on Friday. So until the next one, love each other and love the movies.